Thank you all very much. Organised to be seated and we can get going. Excuse me. My name is Alex White, Director General here at the Institute, and everybody's very welcome. In particular, our very distinguished guest, Fintan Slye. And Fergal will introduce Fintan at greater length in a moment. I just want to thank Fergal McNamara and Owen Lewis, the co-chairs of the Climate and Energy Group, for all the work that they do in and for the Institute on this agenda, which is a critical one for us here, as it is indeed for the wider society and economy. But there's a lot of work going on in the Institute all of the time, and they are our two key people. And thank you very much to them. John Fitzgerald, various others here as well, who make a huge contribution, and it's always important for that to be noted. And I know Una Buckley is here as well, Secretary General Department, and she and her staff and team, we enjoy very much working closely with them. And there are others here that we work closely with too, but I just thought I would single them out. So thank you very much. It's my pleasure to hand over to Fergal McNamara, who will chair and moderate this discussion. Thank you all very much.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and you're all very welcome here to the Institute of International and European Affairs, and very welcome back Fintan Slye, who's going to give us lead a conversation with us on preparing for a cleaner energy future, including UK and Ireland relations. And Fintan is the Chief Executive Officer of NESO, which is the National Energy System Operator. I'm stressing that word energy, and we'll come back to discuss that a little bit later, for Great Britain. Fintan is going to speak with us for about 20 minutes, 15 or 20 minutes, and then it'll be your turn to join in the conversation. Please just raise your hand. A mic will come around to you. Tell us who you are. Put your question in as briefly as you can, because I'm also going to, for the folks online, I'm going to also ask them to put their questions in the Q&A function on Zoom, and please to put them in as soon as they occur to you, so that I can have some chance to put them on your behalf to Fintan. And more generally, please, if you want to join the conversation on social media, please use the hashtag @IIEA. And just to note that this whole session, the Q&A and the remarks by Fintan will be all on the record. And it's my great pleasure, of course, to welcome you back, Fintan. I know you've been here many times. When were you here last?
In the IIEA?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
10 years.
Oh, wow.
So you're Chief Executive now of NESO, the National Energy System Operator that was established last October. Before that, you were Executive Director of the predecessor organisation, which was the National Grid Electricity System Operator. And before that, you were Chief Executive of EirGrid. In fact, from 1992 to 2017, when you left, you were progressively more senior positions from ESB National Grid, and EirGrid itself. Also, you're the Executive Director of the Australian Energy Market Operator based in Sydney. And I know and recall that you spent 2 years with McKinsey, 2004 to 2006, something like that. And some time with ESB International. You were in the Strategic Consulting Group and overseas in the United States. Fintan, it's a great pleasure to welcome you back. Ladies and gentlemen, please just welcome.
Thanks, Fergal. It's a long list of things, Fergal. I don't remember any of them, but anyway. So thank you very much to the Institute for International and European Affairs for the invitation to talk today. Aside from being a great excuse for me to come home, visit some family and friends and reconnect with some old colleagues, I am actually delighted to be here talking about clean energy, the energy transition, and cooperation between the UK and Ireland and those things. So maybe to start with, which Fergal alluded to, who or what is National Energy System Operator, or NESO, as we like to talk about it. So it was established on the 1st of October last year, though it had evolved from what was a separate business unit in National Grid, the National Grid Electricity System Operator, which is historically responsible for the control centre for managing supply and demand and balancing the system 24/7. And we continue to have this role, but crucially now we also have roles right across the energy system, including planning for gas and hydrogen networks and the evolution of the gas markets. And effectively, we're acting as that strategic architect of the future energy system. We also have a role as an independent strategic advisor to the UK government and to the UK regulator. We're a public corporation, which means we're owned solely by the UK government. We have an independent board, we have an independent chair. We have no profit mandate, and we are wholly regulated by Ofgem, which is the electricity and gas markets regulator in the UK. The intention or the vision when NESO was being established was to create an organisation with that ability to look across gas and hydrogen and electricity when planning the future of the energy system, so that we could overall enhance energy security, deliver greater investment certainty, and allow for an optimization of the energy system that ultimately delivers more affordable energy for consumers and society. Since the launch last year, we've also continued on the journey of transforming the electricity system and its operation to enable it to operate at zero carbon by this year. So that means that for periods this year, the GB electricity system is going to have the capability to run at zero carbon, which is truly transformative when you think of only 30 years ago, there were no renewables at all on the system, and we're going to have transformed by this year. We've hit 95%, so that's the current limit we've hit, and we expect before the end of the year we'll get to periods of time where we'll have it at 100% clean power on the system. Those periods will grow and grow, and as I'll come to talk about, by 2030 they'll be there for 95% of the time. Now, maybe turning a little bit to UK and Ireland cooperation, and I know, UK and Ireland might not always see eye to eye. I suspect the selections of the Lions team in 2 weeks' time is going to create lots of controversy, but I think most of us in the room would agree that when it comes to energy cooperation, the two are intrinsically linked. And the islands have been interconnected for a long time. And that is an essential bond in a world that's becoming increasingly physically interconnected, but I think with increasingly and very significant geopolitical uncertainty within it. So there's one gas interconnector, there's now 3 electricity interconnectors, and it was great to see the commissioning of the Greenlink interconnector earlier this year. And that ambition for increased levels of homegrown renewable generation is a mutual and shared ambition between Ireland and the UK. The goal to reach 80% renewable generation by 2030 in Ireland, with an aim to add 9 gigawatts of onshore wind and 8 gigawatts of solar, is hugely ambitious. In the UK, there's an aim to install an additional 72 gigawatts of renewable capacity, 30 gigawatts of offshore wind, 15 gigawatts of onshore wind, 35 gigawatts of solar, and all of that by 2030. And a portion, I think, of that offshore wind will be built between these two islands. And I think this is an ideal opportunity for system operators, for governments, for regulators, for industry to work together to ensure we use these natural resources for the benefit of consumers in both countries. At NESO, we continue to work with our friends at EirGrid and at Sony to realise the potential of the Irish and Celtic seas to ensure system stability and security, as well as to support that transition to net zero. We also work closely with our governments to set the institutional foundations for energy cooperation. Earlier this year, the Irish and the UK governments met to signal renewed cooperation on growth and security, with clear commitments on cooperation on interconnection and offshore development of the Irish and Celtic seas. This was coupled with an ambition to remove barriers to investment and improve marine planning. But the relationship between and the interconnectedness of Great Britain and Ireland does not exist in a vacuum, and it'd be remiss not to recognise the importance of the wider European context. And while the UK is no longer a member of the European Union, we understand the important role we fulfil in connecting Ireland's energy system to the rest of the EU. And even with the forthcoming completion of the Celtic Interconnector, a project I'm personally very fond of as it started when I was at EirGrid, but even with the commissioning of that, Ireland will remain more connected to Great Britain than it will to the continent. And while today Great Britain is a net importer of electricity, we expect that by 2030 it will be a net exporter, supplying neighbours with clean, renewable generation. In that, Ireland and the UK will continue to support each other to ensure resilience and security of our energy supplies. And while the UK may have left the EU, it remains closely connected with European friends and neighbours, and in particular Ireland through not just our shared energy infrastructure, but through shared values and ideals, and through friendships and enduring relationships, and long may that continue. And there are clear signs of an improving political relationship. And following the Irish-UK summit, the UK government has used opportunities to signal its intent to reset European relationships. The IEA summit on energy security contextualised the cooperation in a more volatile security and energy environment. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and British Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer both signalled a desire to work together to navigate a new paradigm for energy security. Last month, the UK-EU summit, both leaders reaffirmed this commitment to work together on energy. This included exploring ETS linkages and new market arrangements to facilitate efficient trade in electricity. We welcome this commitment to greater cooperation, and across these summits, there's a clear intention and goodwill from all participants. Significant benefits can undoubtedly come from this dialogue, and we would encourage a move to implementation as soon as possible. I believe cooperation between the UK and Ireland, and indeed with Europe as a whole, will help reduce consumer bills. It will strengthen our mutual energy security and help us all to make that transition to clean, affordable energy. Turning then to the UK's ambition to tackle climate change, one of the first things we were asked to do as NESO was to advise the government on what it would take to get to clean power by 2030. One of the first things we had to do then was to define, well, actually, what does clean power mean? And we set out that it was when 95% of Great Britain's generation came from clean power sources, and overall the total amount of clean generation across the year was more than the total demand in the country. The difference, of course, being exports. There will remain significant capacity of gas-fired CCGTs as capacity, as backup, but it will contribute less than 5% of energy over the course of the year. It's fair to say that there were many people across the industry who believed, and some who still believe, that that is not possible. But our analysis showed that, in fact, it was possible, albeit it would take an absolutely Herculean effort to get there. Whether that's delivering first-of-a-kind technology, speeding up the planning system, looking at how to do regulatory approvals in a different way, we're going to have to do all of those things in ways that haven't been done before and in timeframes that we haven't envisaged yet. As part of that clean power journey, we recommended to the UK government that clean power from different sources such as wind, solar and batteries would roughly need to double, or in some cases treble in the next 5 years. For offshore wind specifically, we anticipate contracting more generation in the next 2 years than we have done in the previous 6, and ultimately building an additional 28 to 35 gigawatts of offshore wind by 2030, up from today's installed capacity of around 15 gigawatts. On the theme of building, our plan addresses the issue of planning. The current planning regime needs an overhaul. At present, the time it takes to deliver transmission infrastructure is significantly longer than the time needed to build and develop the generation infrastructure. And that delay is leading to additional constraints, inefficiencies in the system, and costs to consumers. Government have laid a bill before Parliament, and we expect that to be expedited through the rest of the year to significantly accelerate some of those projects through, ultimately leading to lower prices for consumers. It is really clear from our plan as well that the energy system will require a large amount of investment. And our prediction of the total capital costs across the public and private sectors is that there need to be spending of approximately £40 billion per year, every year up until 2030. And looking beyond that, as demand ramps up, as we electrify household heating, as people drive more electric vehicles, and as new technology such as data centers becomes widespread, demand will increase, and that will only increase even more post-2030, meaning we have to set the system up for a sustainable transition. This is not a sprint to 2030 that stops there. Our energy system will need to continue to evolve and grow to meet the needs of society and the economy. Ultimately, the UK economy knows that it can only be successful if it can grow. And to grow, it needs secure, affordable, and sustainable power. Power to meet the needs of data centers that carry the information we use, power to drive new and existing businesses that will create jobs across Great Britain, and power for people in their homes to enable them to do the things they want to do when they want to do them. And as we look to that period beyond 2030, we've started on a journey to create a strategic spatial energy plan, which will be central to how the Great Britain energy system develops, and it involves spatially planning for the first time for the long term across electricity, gas, and hydrogen. We've seen in recent years that at times the system can be disjointed, with generation being planned in isolation from networks, leading to delays or more constraints, with some of this leading through to additional costs for consumers. We now have the opportunity to fix this, and that is the objective of the Strategic Spatial Energy Plan, to plan that energy in a joined-up way, thinking about networks with generation, with gas, with hydrogen, with demand, with flexibility, with storage, bringing all of that together to get the right answer to support growth, to support the economy, and to support secure, clean, affordable energy to homes and businesses across Great Britain. A good spatial plan will allow us to build a network where we need it, when we need it. It'll provide strategic direction and the clarity needed to enhance competition and enable markets to do what they're really good at: innovating, cutting costs, and meeting customer demand at the lowest cost. Working hand in hand then with that national plan are 11 regional energy strategic plans, a concept where NESO will work with different regions and nations across Great Britain, from network companies to local authorities to key stakeholders, to develop energy plans for their area. I believe that these regional plans will accelerate progress as they buy in from those communities. And when you step back, the combination of the national and 11 different regional plans will interlink with one another and deliver that overall GB-wide ambition in the best interests of society and the economy. Our Strategic Spatial Energy Plan will also help understand how we link up and coordinate with our neighbours, including the future needs of interconnection and the future coordinated development of the North Seas. Through a collaboration of European system operators bordering the North Irish and Celtic Seas, including our friends at EirGrid, we're engaging to understand each other's plans and identify areas where we can coordinate and collaborate better. To deliver these plans for the future energy system, one of the key issues in the UK that needs to be addressed is the process of connecting to the grid. Speaking to various system operators across the world, this is not just a UK problem, but in the UK it is particularly acute. The connection queue has grown enormously over the past short number of years and now stands at around 800 gigawatts today. And while to some extent this reflects the ambition of the sector, it also underlines why reform is so important. If all of these projects were to go live today, we'd have double the capacity we need by 2050 and 4 times the capacity we need by 2030. We therefore need a connections process that reflects the system of today, aligning with the Clean Power 2030 plan that I mentioned earlier. Our reform proposal moves away from what is currently a first-come, first-served approach to one which prioritises ready-to-go projects, those that are needed for 2030 and beyond, ensuring that they are brought to the front of the queue first ready, first needed, first connected. These reforms are central to unlocking the £40 billion annually in investments that I mentioned earlier, getting to a place where the grid is no longer a blocker, instead where it is an enabler of economic growth, and a simpler and much more agile process provides the clarity that investors, customers and stakeholders need. So, to conclude, what is clear to me and clear to all of us at NESO is that there are lots of challenges ahead, lots of challenges in achieving a clean power transition, and a need to increase the pace of delivery, not just within NESO, but across industry, across regulators and across government, especially in this period over the next 5 years to achieve the ambitious goals that have been set. By working together, I think the UK and Ireland can achieve a clean transition that supports future-proof grids and lowers the price for consumers. Thank you again for the invitation to come here today, and I look forward to any questions. Thank you.